Hello. Hello, police. Yeah, what's the problem, sir? We just drove down our farm track. Yeah. Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it. Yeah. It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. The following article comes from the 21st of January 1998, with the headline, "Cold Slaughter in the Snow." The 3 men lay dead in the Range Rover. The blood seeping from gunshot wounds to their heads and bodies had stained the slushy snow red. The gruesome scene that confronted Peter Theobald and Ken Jiggins that morning is unimaginable. They had gone to feed 800 pheasants kept in the fields at Peter's 130-acre White House farm. But before they could reach the birds, they stumbled across the metallic blue Range Rover and its grisly contents, sparking a major police investigation that would uncover tales of drug smuggling and moonlit beach landings to rival any thriller novel. The F-Reg vehicle was parked in front of a gate. A sign on it read, "The use of guns or any other activity which disturbs people or wildlife are not allowed on this land. Enjoy your visit." Those words meant nothing to the killers. At first, Ken and Peter thought the men inside the Range Rover were asleep. But the 2 slumped in the front seats had hideous head wounds and congealing blood dripped from their noses and mouths. Behind them, a 3rd man lay with a severe stomach wound and his bloodied head rested against a smashed rear window. The car interior was splattered with red. "It was a sight that will live with me for the rest of my days," Ken later admitted. The scene for the execution was Workhouse Lane in Rettendon off the busy A130. The news stunned the sleepy village, home to 1,500 people, 1 shop and 2 pubs. For the first few weeks, flowers were left at the murder scene. Laid in the dead of night, one paid tribute to Tate. "A wonderful man. Poison did this to you." That sentiment was not shared by many. A pensioner calling at a newsagent's near Muscleman Tate's Basildon bungalow said, quote, "There will be no tears shed from around here. All 3 were parasites who preyed on kids. I'll be raising a glass tonight to the man who killed them. I only wish he'd got 20 more." The deadly cartridges were fired from point-blank range using a pump-action or self-loading shotgun. Experts say the victims were taken completely by surprise, shot once to immobilise or kill them before their bodies were pumped with further shots. Rolfe, the driver, was probably the first to die, shot through the back of the head. Another wound to his face was a staggering 12 centimetres by 5 centimetres, and the fur collar on his anorak showed signs of burning. Detectives found the Range Rover's ignition was off, but the automatic gear shift was still switched to drive. Rolfe's foot was on the brake and his hands were on the steering wheel. He looked as if he had pulled up at traffic lights. Tucker, sitting beside him in an anorak, was next. He had his hands in his lap, one holding a mobile phone, and his legs were still crossed. He was shot 3 times, twice in the face and once in the back of the head. The only one who may have known what was coming was Tate, dressed in a black leather jacket in the back seat. He also had a mobile phone in his hand with the strap wrapped round his wrist. He had taken a shot in his stomach, damaging his liver, another to the head, and had a bullet graze across his scalp. The Range Rover was eventually hoisted away, still carrying its morbid cargo, and forensic experts searched it with a fine-tooth comb in a bid to find clues. Although 8 shots were fired, they discovered only 7 cartridges at the scene, all from the same gun, and a crushed area of vegetation as if someone had lain in wait. The motive certainly wasn't robbery. Rolfe was carrying £104, Tucker £870, and Tate £480. The mystery facing detectives was not that someone wanted them dead, but that the killers had managed to lead the streetwise pals, unarmed, down the lane, like lambs, to the slaughter. The following article comes from the 21st of January 1998 with the headline, How Menace of Evil Essex Drug Barons Was Wiped Out. Jubilant detectives today heaved a sigh of relief after 5 major drug barons were wiped out of the South Essex equation. Endless police hours have been poured into the triple killing investigation, held by the officer heading the case as the most important of his career. The costly Rettendon case will most definitely have an impact on drugs being sold on the streets of Essex. Detective Superintendent Brian Story, who led the murder investigation, said the death of 3 drug barons and life sentences for their 2 killers would help reduce dealings. He added, quote, "There will be a big difference in the short term, but I cannot say how things will develop in the long term." Mr. Story, 47, said the case was one of the most important battles against drug dealers over the past 30 years. He went on to praise colleagues for their professionalism and the many arduous hours they spent trying to secure a conviction for the gruesome murders. He added, quote, "This case has been a long, difficult haul. It has been one of the most important I've had to deal with and probably one of the most important of my career." Mr. Story said the dreadful killings are yet more evidence of the evil of drugs. He explained, quote, "The people who suffer are not only those who sacrifice their health and income to become victims of the dealers. Life for drug suppliers is also very risky. There is no trust or honour in the drugs world." In this case, 3 lives have been taken and 2 men are starting life prison sentences for these murders. Mr. Story said he could not comment on the evidence of Supergrass Darren Nichols, the main prosecution witness, or a related trial involving the other defendants later this year. The following article is from the 21st of January 1998 with the headline, Drug Deals That Led to Death. Something as insignificant as a batch of dodgy cannabis was to spell death for Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe. At the beginning of November 1995, Tate gave £70,000 to his old pal Michael Steele, who had regularly been ferrying cannabis across the North Sea, aided by Jack Womes and Peter Corey. Darren Nichols, who was the star prosecution witness in the court case, revealed he and Corey would buy the drugs from John Stone, who ran Stone's cafe in Amsterdam, Holland. Then the pair would travel to Blankenberg in Belgium, and in scenes straight out of a spy novel using torches and walkie-talkies, they would signal to Steele in his inflatable boat. During that last drug importation worth £120,000, the tension behind Tate and Steele began to mount, and the trip was dogged by disaster. Steele discovered Tate's £70,000 was around £200 short, staff at Eurocar in Amsterdam refused to take cash for a vehicle Nichols had hired and his credit card was over its limit. Nichols and Corey nearly missed Steele on the beach after going the wrong way. Corey accompanied Steele in the boat, but Nichols missed the last ferry home. Steele landed the drugs at Point Clear near Clacton, but was later arrested with Womes by customs officers who spotted the boat. The officers searched Steele and discovered an electronic organiser. On it was logged the telephone numbers of Womes, Tucker, Tate, Stone's Caff and Peter Corey, but no charges were brought. The situation deteriorated further when the drugs turned out to be dud. Tate was fuming. Andrew Munday QC, prosecuting, said, quote, "There was pride at stake. Steele had lost face. He was the importer, but now had to admit what he had imported was rubbish. Tate was furious." Steele and Nichols travelled back to Amsterdam for a refund, and after much haggling were given the sum back in full. They hoped to catch a train to Ostend, where they planned to meet Tate and give him back his share, but were followed to the station, probably by Stone's men. After dodging their pursuers, they hailed a taxi to Ostend at the cost of £400, leaving Steele badly out of pocket. The date was now November 16th, 1995, and Tate was waiting in Ostend with pals including Craig Rolfe and Barry Dorman, the owner of Eastern Garages in Fobbing. Mr. Dorman had given Tate £10,000 for the deal, believing he was going to buy a car. Tate got his cash back and returned to Basildon. But greed prompted him to tell those who had loaned him the £70,000 that Steele hadn't paid up. To bolster his story, Tate threatened to make Steele admit it on his knees, then he, Tate, would shoot him dead. Steele was further enraged to learn that 1/3 of the dud cannabis had been saleable. His investigation showed Tate had received that third and probably sold it. Another point of tension between the former friends was Steele's fondness for Tate's ex-girlfriend Sarah Saunders. Mr. Monday said, quote, "It appears Tate wasn't behaving very well towards her. Steele and his partner Jackie Street, no doubt out of loyalty, were seeking to assist her. Steele decided the only way to deal with Tate was to kill him." If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.